already got a couple of people tuned in and here to join us today. I'm going to waffle for a bit whilst we wait to see if anyone else is going to come in before we get started properly. Those of you who are already in, if you fancy chat messaging me what online advertising you're currently using Facebook, you're using Google, you're using Pinterest, you're using Twitter, LinkedIn, something really random, I'd love to know. So you can put that in there. What I'll also say at this point is that if you have questions you want our lovely panelists to answer, then what's really, really, really crucial for you to do is to ask them early. Because what happens in these sessions is that you let me ask my questions for a bit, and then you come in with 10 minutes to go and ask a whole load of questions. And I quite frankly just don't have the time to manage to get them in front of our marvelous panelists at that point in time. So if you've got questions, add those now. If you want to tell me which advertising platforms you're using, add that now. Otherwise, I think what we'll do is we will get started. So today we are here to do one of our Keep Optimizing Marketing Podcast Expert Panel Q&A webinars. Nice short title there. And what these are, this is the audience's chance, all of you out there watching is chance to ask questions of our experts. And today we're going to be focusing on online advertising. And our vague topic is what you should be on your to-do list right now. So we're not talking about 2025 tactics. We're talking about 2020 and 2021 tactics. And of course, this webinar, along with the Keep Optimizing podcast at the moment, is sponsored by the lovely people at Klaviyo, who will not be joining us today, but who we do love for the way they integrate and run most of our email marketing. So let me find the right button so as I can... What happened then? We just completely lost the correct... Oh, there we go. We're back again with the correct screen. So who are our guests today? Well, very shortly, I'm going to be joined by Sarah Geoffrion, who's the head of delivery at Nest Performance. And you can grab a copy of their Christmas 2020 Crunch Time for the UK's overcrowded e-commerce market at nestperformance.com/blog/e-commerce-social-advertising-report-2020. Which you will also find if you go to their homepage. But if you want to screen grab that, write it down, etc., you can right now whilst I take you through our other guests. We're also going to be talking to Kevin Urrutia. He's the founder of Voy Media. And you can get Kevin's brand new best-selling book, Digital Marketing Made Easy, on Amazon right now. It's a corker of a read, well worth checking out. We also have, with another book recommendation, we've got Mark Hammersley, who's co-host of the Hammersley Brothers e-commerce podcast. And you can grab a copy of the Hammersley Brothers Ultimate Guide to E-commerce Growth book via ecommercebook.co.uk. And then you've got me, your host. I'm the host of the Keep Optimizing podcast, also the eCommerce MasterPlan podcast. And you can find both of those on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., or head to keepoptimizing.com, where you will find all of that good detail. But right now, I think we should get our guests up. So guests, esteemed panelists, do you want to turn on your video and your audio and come and join me? And we'll find out what the audience wants to know. Hello.
Hello.
Right. I'll switch over to there. So, you're on big screens now. That's always a good moment. So everyone who's out there, I'll get these guys to introduce themselves in a second, but whilst they're doing that, if you've got questions you want to ask them, which we've got some amazing brains in the world of online advertising here, so please do, you want to put those into the chat box. So add them sooner rather than later, because I want a chance to ask your questions, not just mine. But don't worry, I do have plenty and they're really good. But I would much rather be asking your questions. So if you've got a burning question about your ads, then please do bring that out for us by putting it into the chat box. Right, guys, let's start with Sarah. Sarah, do you want to just let people know a little bit more about you?
Sure, Chloe. So yeah, I'm head of delivery at Nest Performance, which is a performance marketing agency based in London, although we're all working from home, of course. So based a little bit all over the UK, really. And we specialize in the e-com vertical, and we are Facebook experts.
Excellent. Okay, and Mark, we're going to go clockwise as I'm seeing, but
well, hello. You said you got some top brains here. Unfortunately, probably didn't bring mine. I've literally got out of bed straight onto this. I'm kind of like a rabbit in the headlights. But so I've got no idea what I do. Oh, what do I do? I'm part of the Hammersley brothers, and I do e-commerce, and I've been working in e-commerce for 15 years. We've got an agency in Manchester. One of the businesses we run is Smiley Business, and they do a lot of Magento stuff. I'm doing a lot of coaching online to e-commerce people around the world, which has been building basically during the lockdown. And so I'm just getting into it, and I've got a lot of e-commerce brands myself. So I think, I don't know, hopefully I'll start making more sense in a second.
I'm just thinking, Mark, I'm going to send all the questions at you just to see what we can manage to, because I often think that just got out of bed brain can come up with some amazing solutions sometimes. So maybe we'll test that as we go through.
I can't even remember my own name at the moment, but anyway.
I don't think you mentioned this, but we should probably point out that we are all from different places around the world. So we've got the US, the UK, and New Zealand, which is why Mark's just got out of bed. For anyone who's going, why is he only just got out of bed? Kevin, please tell everyone a little bit more about yourself. Oh, Kevin, you're muted. We're not hearing you at the moment.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yay!
Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Kevin, one of the founders of Voy Media, and we're a digital marketing agency based out of New York City. Like Sarah, we're also working from home, but our team right now is 30 people, and we do a lot of performance ads on Facebook. But a lot of focus nowadays happens really with the creatives that we make for brands we work with. And a little bit about myself. My background is in computer science, programming, and I also have e-commerce companies like Mark. So I have a company called Chester, which is a luggage company, and Montum, which is an outdoor gear company. So that's kind of how we got into Facebook ads and advertising, is doing it through our own brands and then helping other brands do it now, so through our previous experience.
Awesome. And Kevin, you're currently in Mexico City, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Mexico City right now for the next few days.
Obviously. From New York to Mexico City, just covering a little bit more of the world. Now, something which we discussed in at least one of the episodes with you guys, and maybe in more, was the weird advertising marketplace we have at the moment, which right now it's election day in the US, which has sent advertising market into quite a frenzy. Do we think post today it's going to get a bit better and those CPMs will come down, or do we think it's just full on for Christmas?
Yeah, I think at least for us, from what we're seeing is I think CPMs are still going to go up, just because I think after election day, even after tomorrow, every advertiser is getting ready to just pump up money that they were saving up for the past month or so. And of course, everything that we're seeing with all the e-commerce brands is Black Friday, Cyber Monday is launching. Most of the companies we're working with right now are just launching super early in order to spend the money now. And then, because we know that Black Friday, Cyber Monday CPMs are going to go up. So for us, it's starting even earlier. So for us, we think it's going to be CPMs are going to be super high no matter what. And I think we might see a small dip, but not as much as people think it's going to be. So that's sort of where I'm thinking the brands we're working with. We're saying, hey, after election day, let's launch all the early promos that we want to get going, so that we can. And the reason why we're thinking about it here, it's for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the sort of holiday season. You're probably buying gifts for family, friends. I have a brother, for example. When I buy my brother a gift for Christmas, I'm only buying him one thing. So once I buy them one thing, that my money's already used. So we're telling brands, get in front of your prospects early. That way you can get their money quicker.
Cool. And Sarah, that rings quite true with a lot of what is in that report I just mentioned that you guys created about what's likely to happen. So are you advising clients similarly to get ready to spend now, especially in the US market?
Yeah, so for us internally across all of our clients and all the markets, if we look at the trends report that we have, the CPMs really peaked in February. They came down with the first lockdown. They gradually went back up, but they're quite stable now and have been since June, which is pretty surprising. I thought they would be increasing a lot more heavily now. But yeah, there was a lot of talk around Amazon Prime Day and CPMs increasing then coming back down and then shooting up again for Black Friday. So while I think it will stay stable for a little bit longer, like Kevin was saying, it's definitely going to go up around Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and probably stay a little bit higher until we get closer to those last delivery dates for Christmas. I think a lot of consumers are probably waiting a little bit until they start seeing a lot more Black Friday sales coming through. And I think advertisers are waiting as well to really push up the budget around those days. So it might just be a huge jump. The other thing that we talked about, Chloe, when we recorded the podcast was either an ease of lockdown or return to lockdown. And we are effectively returning to lockdown on Thursday. So one of the things that we kind of predicted with the return to lockdown was an increase in CPM as these retailers are having to close and have to kind of advertise somewhere. So there'll be a lot more players kind of coming into the market that might have relied a bit more on in-store traffic in the years that have passed.
Yeah, and I would guess they're going to be a lot quicker off the mark this time as well, because they've already, those who didn't have advertising campaigns set up when the March lockdown happened, they do now. So it's going to be straight turned on Thursday. And Mark, you're more focused on the Google space. Have you seen are you seeing it as erratic as CPM increases as we go into this time on Google as we're seeing on Facebook?
Not really. I mean, I think I kind of agree with what everybody's saying. We're basically, we're going into the second lockdown in the UK. People have a playbook now, so they knew what happened last time. They know what did well. I think a lot of the brands that did really, really well last time, like the home decor and the kind of garden, people like that, they'll be like, oh, brilliant, this might be the same, the way around. So they might be running that. So they're kind of going out. But of course, it's happening in winter this time, not summer. So that's going to change it slightly. So maybe garden won't do as well, but in the house stuff will do well. I think Black Friday is going to be really big for online because everybody's going to be bored out of their minds. And so they're just going to be like having something to focus on is like what they're going to buy for Black Friday is going to be a major thing for them. So I think it's going to be large. What am I seeing with Google? I think, I don't know, a lot of menswear and things like that kind of took a dip because people weren't buying outfits to go out. People started buying loungewear and things like that and pajamas and all that stuff. So we might see that again. But I think still, in New Zealand, we had 2 lockdowns. The second lockdown was different in that people weren't as strict with themselves with it. And so therefore they kind of still did a few things and they kind of like had the expectation that we're going to get out and get on with things. So I don't think we'll see the kind of complete contraction that we did last time. And I think that it will be slightly different, albeit I think there'll be a lot of advertisers realizing that they're ready for this time because, a lot of times the first time it happened, I was working with a lot of companies that are like, oh my God, my physical business is shut down. I need to get online. Now they'll be online. So it's going to be slightly
like
different.
The prep work's been done and now it's just... Yeah. It's the flip between lockdown and no lockdown and lockdown and no lockdown rather than the total fear element, both for the consumers and for the retailers. We have a question from the audience. So Paola, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, has asked, what is your most important piece of advice for what e-commerce brands should do in preparation for Black Friday? So we were always going to end up talking Black Friday sooner or later. We are, 3 and a half weeks away right now. So there's still time to do something. So who would like to jump in first with you've got 3.5 weeks left. What's the number one thing you should do? Advice. Kevin, you're grinning. Oh no, Mark jumped in.
I won't because I know who Paolo is and I know what she sells. So I'll let the other two. Unless there's lots of people called Paolo, but I think it's who I think it is. So why don't the other two go first?
Kevin.
I'd say I would say for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I think something you should be thinking about right now is obviously stuff like inventory level is super important. But I think something that I was talking about recently was kind of getting your customer service team ready for this sort of like surge of traffic, surge of customer service requests, and just a clear increase of stuff that might be on sale or sort of returns or shipping stuff. I think that's a thing that people don't really talk about too much. It's your media buying team is probably going to send you all this traffic. How can you successfully know what coupon codes are active, what's not active, and also just like this policy of buying things, returning things after the holiday. So I would say just get your customer service team ready, and that could mean hiring more people, hiring more staff, or just making sure you have like better SOPs or training modules ready for them.
Nice.
From the Facebook side, I would say, well, is the question related to like optimizing Facebook campaigns ahead of Black Friday and what can be done?
Can be anything. It's open-ended. So often I say, audience, if I run out of advertising questions, I will allow you questions about anything loosely to do with e-commerce. So yeah, Sarah, this one you're welcome to stick to Facebook ads, but you could go properly left field if you want to.
Okay, cool. Well, I think Kevin did a good job about talking about optimizing internally what should be done. So I'll talk about the platform itself. So I would just make sure your campaigns aren't in the learning phase, like leading up to Black Friday, because that will be really volatile performance. So where you can reduce the learning phase as much as possible. So ways that you can do that is consolidate your audiences together, make sure you have enough budget on your campaign so that you're getting at least 50 purchases or conversions, whatever you're optimizing towards a week. That's kind of the golden number for Facebook in terms of making sure you get out of the learning phase very quickly. And then the other thing I would suggest is just preparing your creative in advance. Even if you're only launching on Black Friday, have that in the system ready to go beforehand, purely because Facebook does need to review your ads. And if you only launch them on Black Friday and get them created that day or 12 hours before, you risk Facebook being overwhelmed with lots and lots of ads to review and then getting under delivery or delivery later in the day. And that means you're not as visible in the news feed. And I mean, I could go on and on with like the domino effect of that. But yeah, I think, people underestimate kind of preparing early, but there are so many benefits to it. And another thing is, even if your ads are paused, it can still start to pick up on the learnings that you have in the campaign and audiences. So it just helps overall to ensure that someone does go on Instagram or Facebook, you're the first thing that they see, especially with the high CPMs and lots of competition during that time. So those would be my main tips for the Facebook platform.
I particularly love, and then I'll let you go for it, Kevin. I particularly love that point around putting your ads up early, so not so they're live, so they actually get processed. Because three of us, Kevin, Mark, and I, were all involved in a big book promotion I did a couple of weeks ago. It may have been a month ago now. I don't know. Time is very strange at the moment. But I had these Facebook ads, and I set the ads up on the day it went live, and I was so annoyed that it took Facebook 6 hours to take off the ads. So yeah, I will be following that piece of advice too, Sarah. Kevin, you were gonna jump in there.
Yeah, I think what Sarah said is great. I think for us, our rep also told us exactly what Sarah said, which is get your ads in the system and approved. Another thing too is, at least for some of the brands that we work with, we really want to spend a lot of money, and depending on your caps of your daily budget, we asked our rep to increase our daily budget for our accounts to 100K a day, because we wanted to be spending a lot of money on those sort of surge of days. So we've run into issues before where we're capped at 25K and it's only 7 p.m. So we had so much more time left, but we couldn't spend money because Facebook said you can only spend 25K today. So I'd say start talking to your reps, start contacting Facebook support to get your cap increase. We're doing our brands 100K a day max. Of course, it'd be great if we spend more, but at least we have a great room to spend more money on these really good days of conversion. So going back with what Sarah said, just being prepared for this, and you just never know. It could be a great day for you. So you don't want to have a run into the thing where you can't spend more money.
Because I've got caught out by that as well before, which is, there's that hidden field in Facebook ads, which is stop my account when it reaches this, which is a great buffer to have, in case you're going on holiday and you don't want something hideous to happen whilst you're away. But yeah, that's happened to me as well during a promo. And that's one in which you have your power to change yourself, isn't it? So Sarah.
I was just going to say, it's all those little admin details that you don't really think about throughout the year because they don't affect you as much. And then when it's super high stress and you're go, 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 you're like, oh my God, all these little things I didn't never think about. So think about them now.
A backup.
But
a backup credit card is probably a good idea too at this point.
Yeah, I think that one's important too, because we've had that. I think a lot of people, we've had this happen recently where going back to that 25K a day one that we were capped at, and the credit card got declined at 10K. And even though the credit card had a big sort of limit, the issue was that Facebook charges you, I guess, every $900. And the amount of charges, the credit card thought it was fraud because Facebook kept hitting it every like 10 times. So then that's another thing that you need to tell your company, hey, Chase Amex, so we're going to be getting billed like every hour or so the next few days. So don't mark it as fraud.
Yeah, that one goes for Facebook, for Google ads as well, because I remember a while back when I ran my marketing agency, we had a very successful gift business that was running amazing on Google ads over Christmas. And I think the owner of the business, we were using their corporate credit card, and they were on a buying trip to Italy or something. And the credit card maxed out and they were stuck in Italy, unable to pay hotel bills, which was a complicated problem to solve. And not really, when you're the person in charge of the ads, you don't really want to be at fault for the person not being able to eat the previous night. So, backup credit cards are a good idea. Okay.
Load testing is something I'd probably mention as well. Just if you're not on Shopify or something like that, because I think Shopify do that for you. But if you're on your own platform and you're going into it, we've had clients that decided to send all their emails on one day and then Black Friday, and it was just, normally the server's completely fine because it's, way, but it was just like everything in one like 10-minute period, and it's just poof. So, doing some load testing to understand where your limit is, where your concurrent users can get to, and, just thinking whether that's going to happen, because the worst thing that's going to happen is your busiest time of year, your shop's down. So, and what happens if you do hit that? Because maybe you can't afford the servers, you can't afford to do that load testing. So, do you have a queue system? What's the plan? Because you literally can get too many visitors if it all happens at once. So
and even if the server isn't overloaded, you can end up overloading the customer services team or the warehouse team. And if you're running a 4-day promotion, why, maybe you've got a core segment that you're going to send to every day. But if your main aim is customer acquisition, then maybe you're going to really throttle the email. So as the Facebook ads are always, and the Google ads are always doing what you want them to do.
Yeah. Also, you can sell out of stuff. You can sell out, been pushing a big clearance category or something like that, and then you can sell out of everything and your ads can be still running, and you're like, we just stop it.
Yeah,
so
there's nothing worse than spending money to advertise a product you can't sell.
Yeah,
that's never good. Well, look, we've got some other questions coming in. So Saritha is asking, with e-commerce being overcrowded, how can one differentiate better with less cost? And I think that's what you're asking, Saritha. So if I've got that wrong, let me know. But how can we differentiate more in order to kind of reduce costs and increase our return on investments? I guess this could go outside ads as well. But Mark, after you.
So basically, a lot of the people that I'm working with, obviously, a lot of them are selling quite similar stuff. So the ones that are doing well, differentiating by themselves because they're connecting with the customer individually, and people are buying from them. They're telling their story and how they're almost like the founder story of an e-commerce business, how they got started, what they're choosing, why, what's interesting about them. And then people are buying into them and then buying the products that they sell. So it's rather than kind of going out and saying, here's some fake flowers, blah, blah, blah. It's less about the product. It's more about the job to be done they're trying to do and the people they want to work with who are going to get them the results. So it's kind of flipping it around a little bit from the traditional, physical store model where you'd walk in and you just buy a product. People actually want to know what family they're buying from, what team they're buying from, the person, the vision. And it's more about that kind of differentiates. And then once people have got that platform to sell from, they can then sell their inventory. And that's kind of how it's working. So, if you just want to plonk some products on a page and think, oh, why is it not about selling? It's because other people are connecting with those customers in a better way.
Yeah, to echo what Mark was saying on Facebook, a lot of the times I see brands doing this successfully on their website, but then when it comes to the content they produce on Facebook, they really struggle to get the brand personality across. And someone new that discovers the brand on Facebook, they need to see that first thing so that they click through on the ad and then see that kind of resonate on the website as well. So I think a big thing for differentiation on Facebook is to kind of really focus on having like high quality content in your ads and using that as a space to kind of express the brand personality a little bit. And if Facebook deems that your creative is high value and is driving value for that person in the feed and is kind of giving them something that they can resonate with, then you will get #1 spot in the news feed. You'll reduce your costs because you won't be competing as heavily. And then it all works really well. But you can't just plug any photo on a Facebook ad. It really, I think if you don't have a lot of budget, really focus on the creative to get that across, and Facebook will kind of benefit you in the long run.
When you say good creative, what do you actually mean? Can you give an example of that? Because that's obviously, we all say great creative, but can we dig into that? Is it, because I'm interested in that, and I know a lot of people listening will be like, "Oh, yeah, great creative." But what could you give maybe an example of a brand that didn't have great creative and then did have good creative that kind of changed it around?
Well, it'd be difficult for me to give you an example of a brand that had bad creative and then changed it around, but I can give you examples of like what good creative is on Facebook in a more like vague sense. So essentially Facebook likes it when you kind of have some lightweight motion on your content. So let's say you just had like a static image of like a model shot wearing the clothes of the brand, kind of adding a little bit of motion there so that the model maybe moves around a bit, or having copy kind of overlaid on top that kind of swoops in, getting like some USPs on the copy as well, in like a fun, interesting way, adding like sound can be great. So if they are kind of browsing through the feed and they're on mute, they understand what's going on. But if they turn their sound on, there's like music to go along with it that kind of delights the customer in the feed per se. But something that you can do quite easily on Facebook is you can plug in on facebookadslibrary.com brands that you like or that inspire you, and you can see all of the ads that they've had live, I think in the last 3 months. You can get loads of ideas there. So
that is an amazing tool. Facebook. Yeah. When I first found that, I was like, you can see everybody else's ads?
Yeah.
Without having to navigate to them and then click 3 buttons and all the rest of it. Kevin, we spoke a lot about creative in our episode as well, didn't we? And about the power of, obviously, as Sarah's saying, video and interaction is great, but that user-generated piece we talked a lot about, didn't we?
Yeah, so I think, going back to the original question with what Mark said, I think what he said is true. Like, if you have like a widget, you need to be telling your story, because just sort of putting your website out there with no story or no brand, it's not going to work anymore. But then also going with what Sarah said, it's the creative. I think creative, what I see right now that's working really well is comedic stuff like Squatty Potty, really great brand that's selling just like a spray for the bathroom. We also have Lumen, that's a skincare product. They also do very funny creative that's very like provocative and sexual. We also have other companies like Ballsy, which is like a men's grooming company, very provocative names. And that all these products are just stuff that people use every day, but they added a twist to it. And that's what I think people need to do now, is add some sort of twist that's sort of funny or creative to make your product stick out. Because if not, you're just gonna be another Me Too brand. So, and I know a lot of times people think about like, oh, how can I be funny? How can I be creative? I was like, at least for me, we're in New York City. Like, everybody here wants to be a comedian. So just go hire a comedian online and have them write some sort of funny story, some sort of funny scripts. It's all about the script writing, and they can come out with the story of the brand. That's what it is. And marketing is just about the brand that you tell. So every company has some sort of thing. So you can find somebody to say, hey, tell me, let's make up a funny story of how we started the company and use that. I know everybody, for example, like I was reading the book on like Netflix about, I think Reed, right? How he started Netflix. Where like, hey, he went to Blockbuster. He didn't want to pay the late fees. Everybody's heard that. But if you read the book on Netflix, that was that they made up. That's not the real story. The real story is they thought of an idea in the car driving together to think about a new company to start. But the brand story was this, and this is how they resonate with their audience and buyers. Like, oh yeah, I did have that issue. So now you hear Netflix story, that's the thing you hear because someone in their team created it. And now they say it so many times that everybody believes it. But I think that's what it is. It's what is your brand story? What can you say to people that makes sense? And if you can't do it yourself, just hire somebody. Like there's tons of writers out there that I think are available for free on any of these platforms. So, and again, going back with what Sarah said, with the creatives, you can hire these writers to make these sort of scripts for your video ads, for your Facebook ads, and then help you sell the product. A good company that does this, I mean, Squatty Potty, the company that does this is Harmon Brothers. Like Harmon Brothers does all these funny videos you've probably seen like from almost every company out there. That's like, you see a great ad, it's probably Harmon Brothers because they're just like pros at this, and they're like based out of like Idaho or somewhere. Gosh. They also, but yeah, they're really good. Like every ClickFunnels has a video from them too. So yeah, they're really good.
Very cool. Well, look, Saritha, I hope that's answered your question. But basically, we're saying be human and tell your story, and be funny and use video. That's the quick summary. We have
everybody jumping onto Upwork and hiring comedians.
Yeah, well, why not? Why not? There's a lot of comedians out there looking for work. So,
and also another thing too with the content is like you can find a lot of these sort of like, maybe Sarah, you probably know too, all these content creators out there that you can hire. Like TikTok is a great place where like you see people being so creative. And I look at it now, I'm like, whoa, this like person is like so young and so creative. Like, how can I hire them to do something for me? Because remember, the advantage here is right now, they don't really know like how much they're worth. So you can hire them for cheap for your brand. And then as they get bigger, you're like, oh, wow, I got really lucky. I found somebody that is a superstar. Maybe later on you can afford them. But in the beginning, everybody's looking for some sort of work, especially nowadays, especially with this work from home stuff. So going back to what I think with just building a brand, a lot of times in the beginning, it's just do pure outreach. Just reach out to these people. What's the worst thing? Say no? Okay, reach out to somebody else. And don't be afraid to just ask for like, hey, I really like what you're doing. Like I have this product. How much is it charge? How much is it going to cost me to like make a video with it, or for you to come up with something funny with it?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're this month coming on the podcast. I think as of tomorrow, the podcast is all about organic social media rather than paid social media, and we're talking a lot about getting people to create content for you, which you can then use as ads. And it's this whole kind of circular place, but. We don't need to talk about what's coming up on the podcast. We need to talk about what questions we got. So we got, Saritha says that was very helpful. So well done, guys. We have successfully answered at least one question today. Next up, we've got a question from Kate Mack, who says, hello, how can you create great Black Friday offers and engagement without giving away stock with massive discounts? And this is something which I know a lot of e-commerce businesses out there are struggling with right now, because they want to be part of Black Friday, but they are wondering if their stock is going to make it to Christmas. So in that scenario, why would you give 50% off everything when you don't need to give away that margin? So this is something I am a big fan of, trying to create discounts that deliver what you want to be delivered rather than just giving away shitloads of margin. But guys, what are your tips around this to create an offer that delivers what you want without giving away all your profit?
I think for some of the stuff so we get this question a lot here, like, hey, we want to do a Black Friday promotion, but what should we do? So some stuff that we do here is we'll do like mystery boxes where you can get an add-on for like $20-$30, and we'll send you some random product from our store. And usually this will be something that we want to get rid of, or something that's like out of season for a lot of the clothing companies we work with. That's kind of a way to create like an offer saying, hey, look, for $20 more, we'll give you an item that's retail value, whatever, $40. And it's sort of not discounting the original item that you purchased, but now it's an additional add-on that we can add on to their sort of cart. So that's something that we do. Other things that we do is just kind of like, really a big one that we tell people to just do more bundles. Obviously, people hear that all the time. But when we're doing bundles here, we're trying to do more of like create your own bundles where the user can actually pick what they want, and then we'll give them like a discount based on the quantity. So if buying 3, we'll get like, whatever, 5% off. If you're buying 6, you'll get like 6% off, and just like marginally discounted, but at least getting the volume up. Those are 2 ways I think we thought about it when we don't want to just do pure like, hey, 30% off, because people are doing that. But again, going back to another question that we get too, it's like, you need to do this sometimes, because if everybody in your space is doing it, then they're going to go do that and not really come to you. So unless you're doing something super, super unique. So it's a really hard question. I think it's tough. So those are some suggestions that we would have there.
No, I like those too. Sarah, Mark, anything to add?
Yeah, I think traditional if you look at traditional physical shops, what they used to do, they always used to price up to, they knew a sale was coming. They price up so they could then price down for the Black Friday. So they were prepared for it. If you went into, like when C&A was around before the sale time, and everything would be ridiculously expensive because they know that everybody's going to buy then anyway. So you can be wait for Black Friday, know Black Friday is going to happen, and you can kind of change your pricing to suit. And then obviously sell the products for actually what you want to sell. I mean, when you went into Harvey Nicks at Christmas time or whatever, the products seem very cheap, but actually probably selling it for what they actually want to sell it to you for, and making a decent margin on it. So it's just all engineered to sell what they want to sell. And you go into these department stores and you see all these kind of clearance stuff, and it's like not the stuff they're selling. It's almost like they wheel it out of somewhere. And they put it on the floor and you go, here's the clearance stock. And it's like, where the hell's this come from? I've never seen this in the shop for 12 months. So it's all engineered, and it's all the business, and it's all done to basically in a way that makes them money. And so you shouldn't think that you need to do it in the same way you've been doing it. And you can actually say, well, how do I engineer this sale for me? And that's what I would do.
Yeah, there's a lot of the big retailers work on Black Friday for 12 months, and they're not spending 12 months constructing email marketing and Facebook ads. They're spending those 12 months talking to their suppliers, going, how much stock can you give me at a discounted rate so as I can put it in my Black Friday? And they are taking, maybe there's something which they'll sell 1,000 of in Q4, and they're getting 100 units of it that they can do at a great discount over Black Friday, or they're buying in stock specifically that they can do a big discount on for Black Friday, which gives them their normal kind of margins. It's probably possibly not the whole product range, but it's something which makes a big opportunity. A bit like, we are only 3.5 weeks away, so it's quite hard to do this right now. But if you've got suppliers who've got stock lurking around that they want to shift, now would be the time to go and see if they can help them, or to do as Kevin said and literally walk around your own warehouse and find that stock you've got sitting there that you could turn into cash by putting it in a mystery box, by putting it into a bundle. So you can turn something that's just some cash sat in the corner of your warehouse into actual cash in your bank, and therefore fulfill that big discount you feel you need to give, if that's how you're thinking about it. But Sarah, what would your tips be to create a cleverer Black Friday offer?
Yeah, so I don't think you need to go as high as 50% off just for Black Friday. I think a lot of our clients do 15 or 20% off, and they have done for years, and that performs really well. I think people just want a discount. They just want to see percentage off, and they're like, okay, and then they buy. If they don't see a discount, then they just won't click. So I'd say first, if you don't want to do a discount because you don't have a lot of stock and you're worried about stock depletion by the end of the year, so you don't want to have a discount, I would say just turn off Facebook ads for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It's just, you'll be paying crazy amounts on the CPM, and your conversion rates will likely go down purely because you don't have a discount. So it's just something to consider. And then the other thing that we've done with our clients is we've done split tests on 15% off versus 20% off or what have you, just to see what the difference in CPA is, what the appetite is, and that can help you understand maybe we don't need to have a super high discount. Maybe our customers are happy with this type of discount. The appetite is the same, and then that kind of improves your margins as well. So I know there isn't too much time, but if you can, in the future, do a couple of split tests to see, especially for next Black Friday.
So my mantra around any promotion, is that you have to structure a promotion to get the customer to do what you want them to do as cheaply as possible. And that does all start with working out which customer you're talking to and what you're trying to achieve. So something which I've talked about I spent far too much time talking about Black Friday strategies this year, but you'll find me on video somewhere talking about the fact that, if you are really worried about your stock at this point in time, and maybe you had like a big bump of customers earlier this year, then why not set up your site so as then you are saying that your Black Friday deals are only going to be available to your email list. So right now you can say Black Friday only available to our email list. You have to sign up here, and that will help you grow the business in the future because you're getting those email addresses. Or you can decide it's a new customers only, or it's a Facebook ads only. So you run the Facebook ads and it goes to landing pages with just that offer. There are many ways to cut and dice your marketing to help you achieve this as well, which maybe if you're shifting lots of stock anyway, it may be a case of actually you're going to turn off the marketing until you get through it. So take a step back and go, what are we actually trying to achieve with our Black Friday? Are we keeping up with everybody else? In which case, pick a couple of products you've got loads of stock of that you really need to clear and do a big discount. Or is there a customer segment you want to do something, be it new customers, returning customers, or something else?
Yeah. Just two things, Chloe, I would say was we had a couple of clients who had massive email growth from putting the clearance section behind an email squeeze page.
Nice.
That was insane, especially for customers who were doing a lot of PR. So they're getting these big boosts of traffic, and then it would just disappear. And so we put the clearance section behind an email gateway, and that massively increased the email list, which obviously was great for moving forward. And the other one we were talking about before was Black Friday. A lot of the suppliers we found have stock sitting around, and they will actually drop ship for you. So you can actually say, normally you'd have a warehouse, but you can say, oh, so-and-so, you've got these perfumes, blah, blah, what do you want us to move? And you go, okay, we'll sell those in our Black Friday sale, but you've got to drop ship these for us. And so it's just becoming a lot more flexible that you don't actually always have to buy in that stock. People are actually geared up to do kind of drop shipping, which might not be your normal model, but it's a way to kind of just get a whole load of stock to sell to your list.
And it reduces your cost because you're not having to do the manpower of the shipping it and packing it and all the rest of it. And actually, that's another good point is you may want to downgrade your delivery promises during Black Friday. You're probably downgrading them at the moment anyway, but your warehouse is going to be under pressure. The courier network is going to be under pressure. This is not the time to be offering free upgrades to next day delivery. That's a terrible idea over Black Friday weekend. Downgrade the delivery promise, explain it's going to take a bit of time. And, as Kevin was saying earlier, you've got to be nice to your customer service staff with all of this stuff, and not over promising with delivery is a way you can do that. If you've got any more questions, now would be a great time to be adding them into the chat box. We'll take anything around ads. We'll take, I think Mark's getting off very easily on the Google Shopping front. So any questions on Google Shopping, we'll take, and advertising or anything else. But whilst you're typing in any other questions you've got, there is one massive topic in the world of advertising at the moment. And yes, Kevin, I'm coming to you in a second. There's one massive topic in the world of advertising which we completely ignored in the podcasts this month, and we've completely ignored thus far, and which one of today's panelists has stupidly told me he's been doing a lot of looking into recently. So we're going to ask Kevin what we should potentially be prepared to do with the cookie Armageddon that's allegedly coming in our direction in the near future, which for those of you out there wondering what on earth that is, there are changes to tech and changes to browsers, which mean some of the advertising methods we currently use are going to become less effective in the future. So Kevin, a 5-minute guide, if you will.
Yeah. So basically what's happening with a lot of these platforms, mostly with iPhone, I guess, coming out, and obviously everybody knows that mobile is, everybody's buying on phones. A lot of these cookies and a lot of these browsers, like Apple, is preventing tracking or cookie tracking, essentially. So what's going to happen is platforms like Facebook and Google are not going to be able to report some of the data as accurate. But what's happening, at least Sarah, you probably see it all the time, Facebook came out with server-side API tracking of sales. And this is how I think it's going to be the future of sales, of tracking nowadays. So the reason why the cookie stuff was so interesting and so useful is because it's so easy. You just add one code on your header or footer and you can get all the sales data. But what's happening now, it's now going to be a little bit more technical, but I think it's going to be fine because a lot of people use Shopify, and then Shopify is already doing a lot of integration on their system. So you don't need to go to your own custom store to add all the code anymore, which I think this would have been an issue maybe 5-10 years ago when every store platform that had an e-commerce store was custom. But now almost 89% of people are on WooCommerce or on Shopify, and all these platforms are getting all the developers to integrate this. And you as a store owner, or even like as an e-commerce marketer, you just need to go now into like some of the Facebook settings and add in some like API keys or tokens to pass the data directly. And I think this is actually better because some of the cookie data, at least before, could have been lost too if people were blocking cookies, if people were disabling JavaScript. With this data now, the sale will go directly in Facebook. You can actually see a much better correlation. And I think it's going to be more useful for the Google Analytics and just your own Shopify data as well. And when you're making sort of your data-driven decisions. So I think it sucks in the short term, but long term, it's going to be easier. And just because all of these platforms are going to do it. And I think initially they were scared, but now it's like, you just see it happening, and if you don't do it, you're just going to have to do it eventually. So, but that's sort of like kind of the gist, I think there.
So it's at its highest level, basically, this is GDPR. It's a change which isn't the Armageddon we think it is, and it's just going to make us be better marketers. Yeah,
I think so too. And I also think it's like interesting because I think you can at least now with your own sort of implementation, you can pass in a bunch more data, because now the cookie stuff won't prevent you from just like taking it from somebody through their browser. Now you can say like maybe pass in more stuff. At least for me, when I was doing some stuff like this, when I was like programmer, we would pass in tons and tons of data to our backend, IPs, what time they purchased, what they purchased, where they came from previously, refer tracker cookies, and we made our own custom dashboards in the backend. But I think you might be able to do that, or at least maybe not do it initially, but I think it'll give you some sort of like insights into what you can do. And there's a reason why there's companies out there like, what's that big company that Google just bought out? That's like a big database warehouse.
That's going to bug me. I can't remember. Sorry, everybody.
Something like that, where like basically like as you get bigger and as you work with these big companies, you're sort of like want like a central database of like sales data and tracking, that way you can make custom reports. And I think this will give people some sort of like insight into like, oh, that's possible. Maybe I should start thinking about it more, because with stuff like, we use Google Data Studio a lot here, but Google Data Studio is kind of like read-only, where you like, let's say you work with a Facebook client and they cancel the account. That Data Studio data is never there anymore. So you can't do like regression analysis on all that previous history of what they've purchased. So I think having your own data and controlling it allows you to think about it. At least that's what we're doing here at the agency. It's like we're seeing all these accounts, but like it's like read-only. How do we save it? That way, like we can see better predictions or help clients with just saying, hey, look, we work with people in the fashion industry. Everybody seems to be selling this thing around this time. We should probably make something like that yourself. And I think that's kind of like just like big data stuff that people think about, and sort of at least agencies are kind of like realizing that clients come to us for like all this advice, like, hey, what should I sell? And it's like, well, I don't know, it's your store, but they want us to like help them out. So it's like interesting to see that. So, but that's kind of like but I think like that just gives people more into like, at least for me, like I come from like a programming background into like marketing. For me, there's so much stuff that I see. I'm like, oh, like that's why there's all these apps to analyze LTV, CLTV, because there's things there that you can extract, but most people don't use it yet. And at least for me, it's like, oh, this gives people like some sort of like, oh, insights into that stuff.
Cool. So it's not as scary. It's not as Armageddon.
No.
Watch this space for cool solutions as we go along. Now, those of you watching, there is still time to get. I think we could probably manage to squeeze in one more of your questions. So start typing now, so I can see there's one coming, because it'll tell me, or we will just carry on regardless. So I have a question for you guys, which is, across the month we've talked Google Shopping, we've talked Facebook ads and Instagram ads and Pinterest ads, but Elle couldn't join us today to talk about that. There are many other ad platforms. Is there anything else that should be on our testing radars for 2021, or should we continue spending our budgets almost exclusively with Facebook and Google?
Well, I think affiliates is something that you can relook at. I think a lot of people got burned in it over the past like 5 years, and then now we're finding that if we cut out a lot of the coupon sites and the people just click me the tickets and actually going, there's actually a new ecosystem down there with a lot of closed groups, a lot of employee groups, lots of like nursing, hospital groups, where you can actually lots of apps that have kind of sprung up that, you know, like maybe like there's a petrol app that people go and check the gas prices, and that's doing loads of business for us. Because there's a lot of these new traffic sources that people want to monetize, and you can actually go and find those, and you can actually make affiliates work. You've just got to make sure that you're going in it with your eyes open, and you're not allowing people to collect the ticket. So I think there's as a channel, it's something you can revisit because it's a different landscape than it was maybe 3 years ago.
I like that. A nice left field answer. I wasn't anticipating affiliates being brought up. Sarah, anything you're seeing it being worth testing at the moment, or is it really still all Facebook and Google?
No, it's definitely important to diversify, and I think TikTok is an obvious one that comes to mind. It's obviously extremely popular. I think the main challenge with TikTok is getting the content right. So while we talked a lot about content on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, you can't really use any of that content on TikTok. It has to be very native to the platform. So that kind of echoes what Kevin was talking about, finding creators on TikTok to make content for you. That's going to be really important if you do want to be on that channel. Or trying to do TikToks in-house, which I personally would not be good at.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, don't look at my TikTok. It's me messing around with my son.
I'm not sure I even I think I have an account. I'm not sure I've ever TikToked, if that's the correct way to put it. Just aging myself massively there. Kevin, any recommendations from you for other ad platforms to take a look at?
Yeah, I think other platforms that it's not really a platform, but I think it's like one of the bigger ones. Like it's just Google SEO in general. I think having a great SEO strategy for your e-commerce store, for your business, is a great long-term sort of strategy in itself. Of course, it's going to take a lot of time to get your SEO up, try to figure out what to write about, what content to talk about. But having a good traffic source is super helpful for any other platform. If you have great SEO traffic, that means you can use that for email remarketing, collections. And then again, you can also use that for retargeting on Google ads, YouTube ads, and then again, of course, Facebook ads as well. So I always tell people, I love SEO. It's one of the first things I do for the stuff, and it's something like I do myself. So I think SEO is a great platform. It just takes time, and I know that's why people do ads, because they want that quick hit of cash and sales. But if you're thinking about really having your store for a long time, I think about SEO and think about strategy of how you should set that up properly.
Awesome.
Kevin, question for you.
Yes.
SEO, what would you say, like, if you were doing SEO, you wanted to get your store ranking and you couldn't do anything else, what would be the main thing you'd focus on?
Yeah, I would say SEO, number one thing is going to be links. Like, how do you acquire as many links as possible in the shortest amount of time? And that's probably all through outreach. I use like the tools that I like to use are Ahrefs, which is it's like a company out in Singapore, I think. And then going back with that, it's like the content that you write. I like in the beginning, I like to start off with like how-to questions, where can I buy this? How can I get this? And that's sort of what we do there for our luggage company, Chester. It's like for us, we get about maybe 50, 60K organic. And some of the questions that we ask right now are how much are luggage fees? How much are baggage fees? How much are Delta airline fees? All this sort of like top of the funnel things that we can write about and then lead into our product saying, hey, by the way, if you don't want to pay your fees, we have a carry-on luggage that will help you do that. So that's how we do it.
Cool.
Nice. Well, you two are going to have to continue this SEO debate offline because we are about to run out of time. So huge thank you, Sarah, Kevin, and Mark. I'm going to switch back to the slide deck. She says seamlessly failing to do that very, very quickly. But there we go, guys. You can now see the screen. So as I said, Sarah is the head of delivery at Nest Performance. You can get a copy of their Christmas 2020 Crunch Time for the UK's overcrowded e-commerce market report right there. Mark is the co-host of the Hammersley Brothers e-commerce podcast, and you can grab a copy of their book, The Ultimate Guide to E-commerce Growth, at ecommercebook.co.uk. And Kevin is the founder of Voy Media, and you can get Kevin's brand new best-selling book, Digital Marketing Made Easy, on your local Amazon store. Now, we talked a lot about Black Friday there. If you haven't yet listened to it, you need to listen to our Black Friday Cyber Monday special episode. It went live a few weeks ago. It's got Kevin's tips, it's got my tips, and there's 9 of us in total giving our Black Friday tips. Lots of prep, lots of clever marketing, lots of stuff around promotions and bundles and stuff. So do go and check that out. And November is coming up very, very soon. And our theme in November on the podcast is organic social media. So not paid ads, the other side of it. We are going to be talking about what's the point, quite frankly, of social media with Matt Edmondson. We cover a lot of topics in that episode. Everything social gets covered. We are then going to be following that up with a nano influencer session with Neil Schaefer, who's author of a best-selling book called, she says, reaching for it. Excellent best-selling book called The Age of Influence, which he goes, well, we really just outline a whole nano influencer strategy for you. We then talk with Dan Gingis, another best-selling author in the social space, about how to get your customers raving about you. So it's kind of like free influencer marketing, I suppose, but also gets you that lovely user-generated content you can use in your ads. And then we're going to wrap up with Instagram tips and tricks. And that webinar is happening not on the 3rd of November because that's today, but it will be happening in early December. And by tomorrow, the e-commerce, the keepoptimizing.com/webinar will have the correct date and time, unlike my slide deck. We will be dropping you an email with the replay of this so you can watch again. Maybe you can watch it with your team, work out what actions you're going to take. That will be coming to you tomorrow with a reminder of all those call to actions for our brilliant speakers. For now, though, I think it's time to say goodbye. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Kevin, Sarah, and Mark, for coming and joining me for this. And I hope all of you watching have found it super useful and enjoy the replay. Bye,
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me.